the bridge, the baby, and what no one was ready to hear. It was the season when the harmattan winds carried whispers across the hills of Ntib, a small village nestled between a sacred forest and the great river Luli. The skies that month were neither kind nor cruel. They held a heaviness, as though waiting for someone to confess. There was a bridge in Ntib, not the kind built with nails and steel, but one made from dark Irako logs and ancestral prayers. It arched over River Luli, ancient and wide, where fishermen cast their nets and lovers carved their names on tree roots. That bridge had stories. It had seen births, deaths, songs, and sorrows. But never had it witnessed anything like the day Adama stood at its edge, with a newborn child in her arms. They say when she appeared, it was just after sunrise. The mist still clung to the river's breath, and birds were hesitant to speak. Adama walked barefoot, her wrapper tied high, her hair loose like someone returning from the spirit world. She held her baby close to her chest, swaddled in soft yellow cloth. A young herdsboy was the first to see her. He froze when she climbed onto the old bridge's rail. He ran, shouting to anyone who would listen. "She is going to throw the child. A woman is on the bridge. Adama! It's Adama!" By the time the elders arrived, breathless and worried, the baby was already gone, dropped into the river's embrace without a single sound. Adama stood still, arms now empty. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply turned to the gathering crowd and whispered, "The river knows. The river remembers." And then she walked away. That day silence swallowed Ntib whole. People talked in corners. They lowered their voices when children passed by, and shook their heads when Adama walked by the market barefoot, wearing the same yellow cloth wrapped around her waist. Nobody dared confront her. Not because they were afraid of her, but because they were afraid of what they didn't know. Adama was not a woman people expected such things from. She was the daughter of Chief Ezamadu, a retired warrior and herbalist known from Ntib to Ibuti. She had once been a village pride, a girl who sang in the moonlight festivals, who taught younger girls how to weave kent, who learned the names of all the healing herbs before she turned 10. When she married Okiri, a quiet palm wine tapper, no one questioned her choice. Love needs no permission. They lived in a small hut by the forest edge and smiled often. Even when Okiri fell ill and died within 3 moons of their wedding, Adama stayed. She never left the village. She never remarried. She never complained. Then one day, her belly began to swell. There was no husband, no lover anyone could name. Yet she glowed like moonlight on fresh rain, walking with pride, speaking with kindness. The women whispered. Perhaps it was a spirit child, perhaps a sign from the gods. Perhaps she had made a pact. But no one asked. Now the whispers turned sharp. She killed her baby. She's not well. She brought shame to the land. She must answer. The elders gathered beneath the great kola tree. The wind was loud that day, rustling the leaves like a spirit trying to speak. Elder Njoku, who had seen 72 rains, stood up. "We must know the truth. We must hear it from her mouth." So they summoned Adama. She came alone, walking barefoot across the square, with a calmness that unsettled even the brave. She sat before the council, and looked into every eye without flinching. Elder Njoku spoke first. "Adama, we must ask you plainly, why did you throw your child into the river?" The village held its breath. Adama nodded once, and looked at the ground. "Because the child was never meant to live among men." A murmur spread through the crowd. Elder Ife Inwa, the oldest woman in the council, raised her hand. "Adama," she said gently, "explain to us. Begin from the beginning." Adama took a deep breath. Her voice was steady, but her eyes had wandered far away, into memory. "It began the night Okiri died. I was sleeping, and I heard him whisper my name. When I opened my eyes, I saw him, standing in the doorway smiling. But it was not a dream. He stepped inside, touched my forehead and said, 'I have come with a gift.' I did not speak. I could not. I felt something pass through me, like a river of warmth, and then he was gone. I ran outside that night barefoot, calling his name, but the sky gave me no answer. 2 moons later, I began to feel the child in me. I knew it was not a child of flesh. I knew it from the way it moved, sometimes not at all, sometimes like thunder. I would dream of the river always calling, always whispering, "We are waiting." When I went to the river to pray, the waters would rise slightly, touching my feet even when I stood on dry land. The fish would gather. The air would change. Then the child came quick and quiet. A boy with eyes like no other. Eyes that were deep like the river, but held no tears. He did not cry, not even once. He did not sleep, not even once. And then he began to speak. A gasp escaped from someone in the crowd. The elders remained still. "Yes," Adama continued. "He spoke before the sun rose. On his second night, he opened his eyes and said, 'You must return me. I do not belong here.' I asked him who he was, but he only repeated, 'Take me to the bridge, where the river meets the truth.' For days I held him. I fed him. I sang. But he would not eat. He would not blink. He only stared at me, never aging, never crying. Then on the seventh day, the yellow cloth he was wrapped in began to glow. It smelled like the river, not like water but like memory. So I knew what I had to do. I took him to the bridge, and before I let him go he smiled. For the first time. A smile full of peace. And he whispered, 'Thank you, Adama. You are brave.' Then I gave him to the river, like he asked. Not because I wanted to, because I was chosen to. No one spoke. A soft breeze passed through the square, brushing cheeks, lifting skirts, and gently rattling the brass anklets of the elder women. Somewhere, a flute began to play without permission, as if the wind had summoned it. Elder Njoku rose slowly. "Adama, this story is heavy, but true," she said quietly. "You may not believe it, but the river knows." A week later, Elder Ifienwa went to the river alone. She threw in 7 cowries, and sang an old lullaby her mother once taught her. The river answered, softly, sweetly, with a wave that climbed the bank, wrapped around her ankles, and then receded. She returned with a message. She did not lie, the elder said. This was a spirit child, one of the river's own, and Adama was only the vessel. From that day, no one in Tebe ever judged Adama again. The whispers stopped. The gossip dried up like old yam, and the bridge became a sacred place, where mothers went to speak to the water, and fathers laid down gifts for children they never met. Adama never had another child, but she was never alone. People came to her for advice, for healing, for stories. She became a woman of knowledge, wrapped in yellow, walking barefoot, always humming the song of the river, because the truth she gave them was one no one was ready to hear, until they did.